So the foundation created the Herblock Prize in 2004 to encourage editorial cartooning as an essential tool for preserving the rights of American people through the freedom of speech and the right of expression. So Rob Rogers' work exemplifies this principle. Syndicated by Andrews McNeil Syndication and a freelance cartoonist for Counterpoint and tinyview.com, Rogers' work has appeared in the New York Times, Washington Post, USA Today, Time, Newsweek, and among others. Rogers' work has received the National Headliner Award, Thomas Nast Award, the Berryman, and the Sigma Delta Chi Awards for editorial cartooning. In 1999 and 2019, he was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize. Rogers served as president of the Toonseum, a museum of comic and cartoon art in Pittsburgh from 2007 to 2017. In June of 2018, after 25 years on staff at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Rogers was fired for drawing cartoons critical of President Trump. In his most recent book, Enemy of the People, A Cartoonist's Journey, Rogers talks about the importance of satire in today's political climate. One of this year's judges, Matt Davies, remarked, "In a historically tumultuous and heartbreaking year, where so many political cartoonists created outstanding work to both comfort and eviscerate a suffering and divided nation, Rob Rogers' cartoons shone bright." Rob is a virtuoso with tongue-in-cheek irony, using at times a deft touch, sometimes a 2x4, always sharply on target and thoroughly engaging. The judges deemed one portfolio to be the most consistent, the most poignant, and the worthiest of this year's Herblock Prize. That is the portfolio of Rob Rogers. Congratulations to our Herblock 2021 winner, Rob Rogers. And I will take my mask. I want to officially hand that over to you. All right, congratulations.
Wow. Thank you, Sarah, Alex, Marcella Brunet, and the Herblock Foundation. And thank you to the Library of Congress for hosting us. This is quite a place. If you've never been here, you gotta check it out. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to win this award. To me, this is the most prestigious award I could ever win. It's like the Oscar for editorial cartooning. Naturally, our statue would be a little more exaggerated looking. But with that in mind, I hope you will indulge me as I thank all of my agents, my producers, fellow actors, dietitians, trainers, psychics, dialect coaches, and of course, my tattoo artist. I'm joking, of course, but not about the tattoo guy. I have a really good one. He's the same guy who did Roger Stone's Nixon tattoo. Roger got a tattoo of his favorite president. I got a tattoo of the cartoonist who helped take that president down. Pretty cool, huh? It still hurts a little bit. Despite the image most people have of the tortured lone cartoonist sitting at his drafting table, there are actually a lot of people to thank. I'd like to thank my family for a lifetime of putting up with me. Thanks to my stepmom, Sandra, my brothers, David and Brad, and my sister, Janet Marie, all watching at home, or they better be. I'd also like to thank a couple of my family members who are no longer with us. Thanks to my mother, Janet, my sister, Linda, a poet and fierce friend. I miss you every day. And to my late father, my biggest champion and supporter, thank you for embarrassing your 10-year-old son by pulling out his private cartoon notebook every time someone stopped by the house. You prepared me for the blank stares I later got from editors and publishers. Thanks to all my former colleagues at the paper, with the exception of one or two. I miss you guys a lot. A special shout out to my longtime editor, Tom Wazaleski, for his wisdom and guidance and for possessing that all-important attribute that most managers do not possess, a sense of humor. To my fellow cartoonists out there, many who I've known and respected for decades, thank you for inspiring me with your work and supporting me with your friendship. I'd also like to thank all the readers who have stuck with me over the last few years. Here's a photo of them. Oh, wait, no. That's the Trump inauguration. Here's a shot of my supporters. I'd like to extend an extra thanks to my patrons on Patreon. Thank you all. Most importantly, I'd like to thank my beautiful wife, Sylvia, whose kindness, wit, intelligence, and passion for social justice inspire me every day. She is my best friend and best editor. I wouldn't be here without her. Thank you. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the great Herblock himself, an American institution and inspiration for all editorial cartoonists. I am not exaggerating when I say Herblock was and is one of my heroes. Granted, Herb had already won 2 Pulitzer Prizes before I was born, and he had been a professional cartoonist for 50 years before I tried my hand at political cartooning in college. And as for style, I was more drawn to the landscape format of the more contemporary editorial cartoonist. Still, I was impressed by his humor and dedication to social justice issues, not to mention his amazing cartoons about Nixon and Watergate. He spoke truth to power. I may not have picked up his grease pencil and stipple board, but in college I briefly considered combining my first and last names in my signature like Herb did. Problem was, Robagagers didn't really roll off the tongue, so I gave up the dream. I remember meeting Herb for the first time in the late 80s at his office at the Washington Post. First, I was humbled that he agreed to see this young unknown cartoonist at all, let alone in the middle of his busy workday. I was taken aback by his warm and welcoming presence. It belied his Take No Prisoners cartoons, but I was encouraged to see that his office looked a lot like mine. It was a wreck. Stacks of newspapers and cartoons all over, barely room to walk, a half-eaten sandwich on his drafting table. I thought, well, I've got the messy office down. Maybe there's hope for me yet. The other thing that impressed me was Herb's creative process. After working all morning, reading and coming up with several ideas, he walked out into the newsroom with a handful of sketches to show to a few trusted colleagues. Despite the fact that he was a living legend, he was not afraid to invite a critique of his work, and he knew that different perspectives made his work better. He was part of a team. His humility in that moment was inspiring. It is especially meaningful to me to receive this award for the cartoons I drew in 2020. What a crazy year. We should all get an award for making it through that year, am I right? In a strange way, 2020 felt like a real Herblock year. It's almost as if some unforeseen force took the events Herb witnessed during his entire 72-year career and compressed them all into 2020. For instance, Herb was 9 years old during the 1918 pandemic. Now, when I was researching headlines and clippings about the pandemic, I was impressed with this Seattle Daily Times, mainly because there were 2 cartoons on the front page, the editorial cartoon and the weather cartoon. Remember when they put editorial cartoons on the front pages of newspapers? No, I don't either, but I miss those days. Anyway, Herb was 9 years old during the 1918 pandemic. 2020 brought us another global pandemic. Herb covered the 1929 stock market crash, and we had our own stock market scare in 2020. Herb cartooned World War II, and we tried our best to avoid World War III. Herb witnessed the 1965 Voting Rights Act, and we witnessed the racial awakening that preceded the 2020 election. Herb caricatured an almost impeached president. We caricatured a twice impeached president. As you can see, it was an amazing year to be a political cartoonist. I saw it in the stellar work produced by my fellow cartoonists, and I am thankful and humbled to be recognized among them. But there's a more personal reason that this award is so meaningful. I won it as a freelance cartoonist. As some of you might know, and as was mentioned earlier, in 2018, after 25 years as the staff cartoonist for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, I was fired for drawing cartoons critical of President Trump, like this one here about separating children from their families at the border. In other words, I was fired for doing my job. I'll be honest, losing my job was devastating. Finding myself suddenly without a salary or health insurance was big, but that wasn't the worst part. I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to function without a newspaper behind me. I had spent 3 decades as a staff cartoonist for a major daily newspaper. My professional identity was inextricably tied to that position. This was the only job I'd ever known. It was especially hurtful to be pushed out because the editorial pages had provided me with my connection to the community. Readers would write or email and call to let me know how I was doing. Yes, much of their correspondence was negative, but that just means I was hitting a nerve. And there were always other readers quick to defend me and my work. This kind of back and forth fueled me. Now, I was worried if readers didn't have a physical newspaper to pick up, if they couldn't open to an editorial page, they wouldn't see my work. They wouldn't laugh or get angry. I would lose that connection. But the readers proved me wrong. From Counterpoint to Tiny View to Go Comics and Patreon, the readers have shown up, and I still have that community. They've helped me survive these tumultuous times, and I hope in some small way my cartoons have helped them get through them too. I am profoundly grateful to be standing here 3 years after being fired to receive the 2021 Herblock Prize. But my story isn't unique. Just ask Michael. In the 20 years since Herblock left, newspapers and the cartoonists they once employed have become endangered species. Staff cartoonists have become the exception rather than the rule. But we can't let that get us down. I'm sure Herb, if he were here today, would be the first to say we must continue to draw no matter what. And that's why organizations like the Herblock Foundation are so important. They celebrate editorial cartooning not just of the past, but also of the present and future. This is especially crucial when other prominent journalism organizations choose to ignore the great work that is being done in our field. Herblock's legacy and his foundation help keep freelance cartoonists like me at the drawing table committed to keeping satire alive. Let's face it, we are living in an age where democracy, the free press, and the Constitution are all under attack. We need editorial cartoons now more than ever. Cartoons remind us that high crimes and misdemeanors should come with consequences. Remember consequences? They remind us that social media is not a replacement for real journalism. And cartoons remind us that we can't keep killing each other with guns. Finally, cartoons remind us of basic truths, like the fact that science is not a hoax and climate change is real. I will leave you with this time-lapse video of one of the cartoons included in my Herblock Prize. You may recognize the music. It's Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries. I chose this in honor of Elmer Fudd's operatic pursuit of Bugs Bunny while singing, "Kill the wabbit, kill the wabbit." Thank you. Enjoy.